easing of the tension. For Britain, the big news lately has been the opening of the Battle of Berlin on a grand scale. Bomber Command has, of course, always had Berlin on the list, but now the technique of heavy saturation attacks on such distant and well-protected targets is a reality. Earlier bombings of the German capital were small raids in comparison with the present offensive, an offensive in which hundreds of our four-engined bombers, aided by the Pathfinder technique, have already made Berlin the most heavily attacked city of 1943. Berlin claims to be the third biggest city in the world. Certainly it's a huge target. Greater Berlin is over 30 miles wide, and it has a population of nearly 4.5 million, or rather it had, for evacuation seems to be the fashion of the moment. Reports which continue to flow in from neutral sources tell of famous buildings destroyed. These reports may well be accurate, but owing to the tremendous amount of smoke from fires which continued to burn for days after the heavy attacks, official confirmation of the great devastation affected was at first lacking. In 1940 and 41, the Luftwaffe attacked London, as well as most of the principal cities of Britain. Few of us can have forgotten those all-night bombings, night after night, but even if we have, this newsreel record may serve to remind us. A few nights ago, Berlin received more than 5 times the heaviest load of bombs ever discharged upon London. So looking at these pictures of the fire of London, try to imagine the picture of Berlin ablaze. Instead of the city, the Unter den Linden. Instead of the docks, the railway repair shops of South Berlin, the woolen manufacturing establishments in the northeast, or any other centers of German war effort and war administration that have been hit. Instead of the London Blitz, very telling blows against the capital of the Reich. Britain always promised to give it back, and now a real beginning of the process has been made. Obviously, it's only a beginning, for Berlin can't be Hamburged with some 12,000 tons. It's too big a target in every sense of the word. But the fires started in London, Plymouth, Coventry, Hull, and all the rest are now burning even more fiercely in Berlin. Not as a mere reprisal, but as part of a definite strategical offensive. To attack Berlin, Bomber Command has to fly about 600 miles to the target, and nearly all the way it's over enemy-occupied territory or Germany itself. Obviously, too, the Germans have concentrated their defenses to protect such a prize as the capital. However low the percentage of our losses in the first big attacks of recent days, we ought never to underrate the risks run or the skill and devotion displayed by our bomber crews. Here are some of the men who were over Berlin on various important occasions recently. They include airmen from many parts of the Commonwealth, as you'll see, and as you'll hear, they all have stories to tell of the Battle of Berlin. Listen to Wing Commander Stidolf.
These crews you have seen are just a few of the many in the Royal Air Force who have taken part in the last 3 great saturation raids of Berlin, which we hope are the forerunner of a series which will illuminate Berlin as the center of Germany's war production. I saw over Berlin for the first time Germany's much vaunted new secret weapon, which was the rocket flak. It didn't appear very effective, and I don't think it should cause us very much trouble in the future.
And this impression from Squadron Leader Benjamin.
Of course, the second raid was noted for the terrific explosion we've all heard about. Certainly was a big explosion. I remember one on the Hanover trip, but that didn't compare in the least with this great flash we saw coming under the crowds. I looked down and I could see Lancasters crawling across the crowds, silhouetted against them. It really must have been a very frightening thing down below.
A final word from Squadron Leader Moss.
We had very little trouble in getting there, but one thing I did notice was the vicious way in which every German town now seems to throw out flak indiscriminately. They all look as though they're absolutely scared stiff of having anybody anywhere near them. I don't think there's anything else I can say. I think those 3 raids together have done a very great deal to put Berlin on the map.